right, we're going live now, guys. All right, all. How is everybody doing? Welcome to Let's Talk with Sister E. I am Sister E. Now, I wanted to I guess this YouTube is dealing with Curious. And I brought Tayu back. Brought Tayu on with us, and I brought Curious back. And we kind of wanted to talk through the Middle Eastern viewpoint from Curious' perspective of the things that he saw while he was in Saudi Arabia. And I kind of wanted to bring him back on because I know he had a lot of information he wanted to provide us. So I'll start with Curious. You can kind of introduce yourself again, and then Brother Tayu, you can also do the same.
Okay, my name is Karis Copeland. So I've been in the military now for almost close to 20 years. And during that experience, I've been able to kind of travel throughout the Middle East these last 3+ years. And that was interesting because with me awakening in 2016, being able to kind of travel while you are awakened, fully awakened, and you know who you are, you start to see a little bit of the nuances that's right in front of your face. And so when you see those and then you start asking questions, you start to get a little bit of a different body language from your Arab partners, and your Arab counterparts, because they kind of don't understand that you actually understand a lot more than what they usually think that they would think that you would know. So that's a little bit of about my perspective, and hopefully in this show I can kind of give you a little bit more just nitty and gritty of what I want to say a typical, but kind of some common thoughts that Arab people have.
All right, Curious. Now, Minister Tayu.
Salama, family. Good to have you here, Karis. How you doing, Sister E?
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this interview. Yeah, Karis has some very interesting information. I also have some questions I like to put out there that I like to get some more information on. But welcome aboard.
All right. Karis, while I pull up the photos, you want to kind of start giving a back history of what's coming, what we're about to show on this one?
Okay, so so a lot of the photos I have put up at the Tayu Ministry website for those that have subscribed. They are actually in the contact us section. So it's a lot of photos. I don't want to overwhelm folks, but I do want to kind of go line by line with them, because if they do have access to that website and are able to kind of toggle on over during this live, that kind of gives you a little bit more brevity in terms of what you're able to see. So
I'm going there now. Here we go. Make sure I got it. And if you haven't already, which I doubt, I think everybody is pretty much subscribed to the webpage. The Tayu webpage is very good and informative. So let me do this.
yep, there it is. Okay, so so last week I kind of wanted to go over the meaning of stones and tablets, and being able to have the engravings on that stone. So if we look back in terms of Deuteronomy 28, we, as a collective, we were forced to have our curses of you're going to worship one or the other, wood or stone. So in terms of the Christian community, and I speak, as a I wouldn't say Christian, but as a follower of Christ, being a follower of Christ, especially within the Judeo-Christian aspect, quote unquote, it was all about what? The cross, right? The cross is the wood. That wood signifies the holiness of, an inanimate object. Even the papacy, they do what? They have the fragments, and they'll gladly display the fragments of the cross across multiple museums, cathedrals throughout Europe. Because it's a funny story. Before when I was in Egypt, I went during the World Cup, had to go through France. And part of that time, I had a 10-hour layover. I wanted to make sure that I got the most out of it. And I went downtown to Cathedral of Notre Dame. So being able to actually kind of see the cathedral before it burned down, that was very nice. But the historical aspects of the theater or the cathedral and other cathedrals, especially throughout Europe, is that it houses a lot of artifacts, and those artifacts has just moved from different cathedrals to different cathedrals, because for them it's a referent power in order to hold something that could have been prescribed to Jesus's crucifixion, or things of that nature. So that's the historical aspect. So leaving from Christendom, going over to Islamic, and especially pre-Islamic cultures, they will tell you, certain Arabs will tell you, there were Israelites. Well, what were the Israelites? Well, I can't tell you this. Well, why won't you go any deeper? And they'll just kind of play sly, like, well, I really don't know much about it. Because why? It's pre-Islamic. When we were coming on out of Egypt, we had Moses that had been given what? The tablets of stone. And those tablets of stone was something that's very significant. We just think of tablets of stone of, okay, those commercials where you have the invent help commercials, and you see the caveman kind of doing the wheel, and they have the contract that they're stoning into the tablet. Well, that's somewhat significant, but the way that breakdown is, when you have something in contract, in testament, or in covenant, those signatories are based, and that's what we say, it's engraved in stone, and they mean it, because even going on right now, the Middle East, it's crazy when we see a lot of rains and other extreme weather conditions that we haven't seen we haven't seen a lot of, and that's all happened within 2 or 3 years. So looking at just the video earlier, there was floods in the empty quarter. It's called Rubra Khali, the empty quarter, and I actually have a picture of that. As we'll kind of make our way down the photos, I actually have a picture of that, and it looks just like what you would think of when they talk about the Mars, and how Mars would look with a red sand and a red surface. So not to kind of belabor the fact or the argument, well, I wouldn't say argument, but kind of these descriptions. As we look on up, the first description I wanted to show you, that photo. It's you look at things and you kind of see the edging and the etching. I think what we don't understand is the intricacies that come on out and that kind of pop out visually. So both on your left and on your right, I'm going to start with the left where it kind of misses a little bit of the tab, or that I said that superficial bit. But if you kind of look to in the middle of both of those stones, you would see kind of some camel little paintings or drawings or sketches. So the superficially, it was trying to paint a story of, okay, this is where this contract leads to. This is something that's very important, because we're not really just dividing whatever land or value, but this is for livestock, and this is specific livestock. So as I had mentioned last week, camels and the camel herding trade has been going on obviously for thousands of years. We saw the relief earlier that showed camels in battle. And camels aren't just in battle, but they are transportation. And if the transportation, that's your first source of trade and industry. So for them, having that camel being that source of trade and industry, that's carried on throughout the generations. Now, of course, in Saudi Arabia, they're going to have 18-wheelers. They're going to have their luxury SUVs. Some of them you'll see in nice, multi-million-dollar sports cars. So the camels they've been a defunct luxury item, but they will still use that particular. They'll still use the camel as a status symbol. So the more camels that you have, really, the more of a status that you have. Whether or not it's for anything practical, that's besides the point. It's just the fact that you are able to have that status. And for that area, they're very understanding of, the social dynamics isn't necessarily just in the wealth that comes along from oil. They look at that wealth in terms of, what's established and what is an Islamic tradition, which do have pre-Islamic holdovers that just carry along. What does that do for their status and recognition within this era? So kind of what's going down here. I took some more pictures of other tablets and stones, and these are just generic pictures, but it just gives you it gives you a point. If we're having any type of monuments, gravestones, right? Grave headers, things of that nature, they're always engraved with our markings. They're engraved to tell a story that, here was, such and such, from this time to this time, beloved mother, beloved dad, beloved child, whomever. And that's kind of where we would give testament to who was on out there. All right, so sister, if you want to continue to scroll down, and this is just kind of, I'll just talk to it. It's just different sizes, different types of textures in terms of the slab, and I think what we have to kind of look at is these were some prehistoric or I want to say prehistoric, but pre-Islamic tools that they would have that would be able to cut rock, you know? So I don't think that they had any type of DeWalt, you know, miter saws with like diamond, um, diamond circular um, cuts, but there was something that they would be able to use that showed that there's a little bit more of a technological basis than just sitting there in the desert, you know, just kind of pondering things, looking at stars. So, okay. And
Are you good with this?
yeah, if you can go down to where it says the standing stones.
Okay.
Hey, Karis, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in the email to me that you sent previously, you indicated that the Saudis, they know who we are, and they also know that they are descendants of Esau. Did you get that confirmation from them, or how did you find that out?
Okay, so I found out actually just talking to many Saudis. So, you know, I wasn't going to have any type of a questionnaire, or I wasn't going to do anything that had any type of a scientific grading rubric, you know, that we would try to have in terms of doing any type of studies, formal studies, things of that nature. So there wasn't any type of variance or any graphs, but being able to actually talk to them, and then just because when you talk, you have to have a conversation. Okay, so the conversations that we usually have, you know, we'll try to go through and we'll say, you know, hey, how you doing? Thing, this and that, and then we'll be very direct. We'd like to be very forward, because you know, for us, look, I want to know what I need to know because I need to know it, because I need to find out. You know, I want to find out because here's the thing: I've been lied to for so long. I need to know who's. I need to find out who's telling the truth and who's just, you know, feeding me some more lies. So the point is, you can't really do all that in a, you know, hey, I just met you, yada yada yada. Doesn't work that way. So you have to actually spend time kind of understanding their position. And you actually have to spend time really understanding, you know, who it is that they know or know of or have that understanding of. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the Saudis, they kind of know who they are, okay, in terms of if they're Ishmaelites, if they're Edomites, okay, if they know that they're Midianites. But the term Arab is really a term of mixture. Okay, well, we're Arab because we're of Abraham. You know, and what they'll do, it's a word play in terms of, okay, Arab, Ibrahim, Ibari, Arabi, Arabi. They will have so many connotations because they take one word and then they'll actually do they'll scramble words. They'll scramble it. And so that's where we get our common definition of Arabic. But in terms of who they are, they know because of their tribes. They know from the tribal dispositions. And I wish I would have been able to kind of drill down even more in terms of, okay, there's 66 tribes on out there. All right, how do those 66 tribes, how do they know which tribe is which? You know, how do they understand that this tribe gets more Tawfiq or Wasta, you know, a greater social status or social platform? Because here's the thing: back in this is the now third iteration of the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. King Abdulaziz, who was actually the founder of this third iteration, he had to actually wheel and deal. You just don't become king because you said, hey, I'm king all of a sudden. You had to become king by doing what? I have to shell out money to these specific people, and then I gotta declare to them this is what I want to have, and this is what I'm going to give you, and these are my terms, and I'm going to leave you alone. I likened it to like the the parable of the king in the Bible, the king that went to distant lands and left the treasure for his servants to do what? To work it. So what did the one servant do? I had 10, I used this, and then I got this back. I had 5, I used this, I got that. I was able to do that, and I got 1. I didn't do anything because what? You're a hard man, hard bargain, hard drop. And what did the king do? Oh, you're not going to do anything for me because you never invested how I needed to have things invested. Well, this is the same thing in terms of this culture. They'll give more because it's a promise, it's an expectation, but that's how they form their kingdoms. And so, every kingdom on out there, let's not be naive. There's some Western influence to it. Everything was Western backed, because what were they trying to do? They were trying to make sure that they didn't have any other influences that could jeopardize, different relationships. So for them, it's they understand they're in Saudi Arabia. Okay. All right. Saudi Arabia, cool. I understand that. But the problem is it's not necessarily Saudi Arabia. Like we would think it like this. Okay, I'm in the United States. Oh, you're in the United States. Okay. So I'm in Florida. Oh, okay, you're in Florida. Well, but I belong to this tribe. Oh, you belong to that tribe. So it doesn't matter your geographic disposition. It's your tribal, it's your tribal affiliation. And a lot of those tribal affiliations, they can be dispersed because they understood I have to kind of go to other places in order to keep my stake, to keep my tribe relevant.
Well,
So
my understanding is that the House of Saud was actually given that position by the British. Is that any confirmation on that? That's from my research that yeah, I think it was maybe around the whole 1948 period or something like that. The House of Saud was given that power.
okay, so I would use what you had researched, and I kind of would, do a on the ground study, and I would ask. I said, is there any rumors to this? Is there any validity to that? And a lot of them like, I really don't talk that much in terms of politics because here's the thing, they're not they're nearly not very free to discuss, but you have to kind of, once you built that relationship and that understanding, then they will talk to you more. And they would say yes. They would say yes. Yes, there is actually, they'll call it on out. They'll say, yeah. They came from Kuwait. Well, who was there in Kuwait? And they'll let you know. They'll let you know, yeah. This name was actually a Jewish name. The whole Abdulaziz, it was a Jewish name. And then you ask them, it's like, where did they come from? Well, what do they do? It's just like the Lopez's, right? In the Iberian Peninsula, the Lopez's. In the Arabian Peninsula, it's the Abdulaziz Aziz. It's are Saud. So those homes, those houses, those affiliations, they didn't actually have a historical Islamic era affiliation. So when I talk to you about, the 66 tribes, right? And then 18 of the major tribes and then the other minor tribes. Well, this wasn't really the case. So when I asked, I said, so how do I really, how do I get some information on it? And I would go to the museums. I would go to these little other areas that they would have because they like to showcase their history. But then when you actually break down their history, you would ask, okay, so where did they come from? How did that happen here? How did it happen there? And honestly, they'd say, well, you know what? This is where our understanding is. And they would kind of give like the distant relative structures of, okay, they kind of claim this, but we know that they're this. And we understand you can look at different features because that's not necessarily Saudi features. Okay. And I think the biggest one for that was like King Salman, who's still the king, but you can kind of tell, oh, you know, he doesn't really look like a typical Saudi. He doesn't really look like that. And so when you ask, okay, what's the bloodline, what's the structure, they would tell you, well, really, we understand and we know, and it's even in the museum. They'll tell you they came from out of Kuwait. Why? Because they had to hold up in Kuwait because they were getting some British help. They were getting some help from the UK. So then you can kind of ascertain things in terms of, okay, well, I'd like to go a little bit deeper, but you know, you'll never be able to get the full story. But there's things that kind of work and they coalesce and it's congruent to what, you know, we've looked at. But again, you know, it's Saudi Arabia. I gotta hide
Well,
it.
yeah, one of the most important things I learned from you last time was that 70% of Saudi Arabia were black, right?
That's right.
Which would indicate to me that they probably were the original people of the land. And but I mean, if you go by current media, current propaganda, whatever, they do not let those people appear on television, right? You never see black Saudi,
Mm-mm.
but
No.
those are probably the true Ishmaelites. I would assume. What do you
So
think?
so it's actually kind of funny because um oh and I think I actually do have the video. I'll try to upload this video.
If you have the video, just upload it, and you can either share your screen or you can email me the file, and I can play it.
That'll be something that I'll upload on the the tail thing. I have to do things the way I have to do it for reasons.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But in the video, I'm just gonna let you know this. I had gone on out and I was looking at the Saudi National Day. It's basically it's their Independence Day. And during the Independence Day, I tell you, the Saudis came on up. They were dressed on out with the traditional thing. And all I could think of was, man, some of those look like my cousins on out there. Because they're doing the same thing, you know, hitting the drum, doing the little chant on the beat. And then, you know, you'd have the the black Saudis, you know, in rhythm. And then you kind of see the lighter Saudi, which is basically Ottomani for the most part. And he come on out, you know, try to do a little sword dance, try to keep a little bit of a rhythm. But but the rhythm and the flow was definitely with the black Saudis that were doing it. So the way that actually goes, they know who their Ishmaelite tribes are, because they actually stayed towards the west side. That was the west side. It's called the Hijaz. It's called the Hijaz. It's the west side, and so that encompasses Mecca, Medina, all the way on up into you know, I want to say it's what is it called? It's basically like Springs of Moses. That's really what that's the little translation, and that's basically up towards the Tabuk area. And I'll talk about Tabuk because that's where you would have the actual altar and the rock of Horeb right there. So they stayed along that side, and the reason being is because it's close to water. It's close to water. I'm going to stay towards a place where I have access, you know, for shipping. I can get things on up. I don't have to rely on the desert and those routes. But what you actually understand within those areas, you actually will have very, very dark people, very, very dark people. I saw one Saudi that he was dark. He was very dark. And I asked, I said, sir, I said, excuse me. I did this all in Arabic, talking to him. I said, I'm sorry, but I said, can I ask you? I said, are you a Saudi? And he said, yes, yeah, I am. And so I said, okay. I said, if you don't ask, I said, what tribe you happen to be from? And he told me his tribe. I totally forgot, but he told me the tribe. But I mean, the dude was dark. Now the dude was dark, and the funny thing is, I would kind of chuckle inside. I said this dude looks like Big Perm, you know. So I forgot which movie it was, but because his hair, his texture was like the sleek texture, but his skin tone was so dark, and it was really interesting. I said, man, it almost looked like like very South Asian, like, or isk, and I was kind of taken aback, and so I had to ask one of my friends on out there, a good guy, and he was actually telling me what was going on, and I said, is he really Saudi? He's like, yes, he's really a Saudi. He's like, those come from our traditional tribes, because what happened, you did have the trans-Saharan slave trade. So this trans-Saharan slave trade was a very real slave trade. It's just that a lot of folks really didn't get caught up in terms of what the Ottomans were trying to do with getting everything coalesced in their kingdom. Because the Ottomans, they stayed north. And the reason they stayed north, it was very favorable terrain. It was favorable weather. You can kind of cross the desert in about 3 or 4 days, depending on where you're going. And you wouldn't have to worry too much about, not getting access to water, because you'd have the abilities to get access to water. But when you're in the Arabian Peninsula, once you're about a day or two into the journey, your options for water it's waning. It's very waning. So a lot of people really didn't want to travel, very in the interior, because number one, you still had a lot of folks that would be bandits and thieves. That's just how it goes. And then number two, your city structures were so vast, if you got caught up in a sandstorm, or you got something that, you got bit by a snake, a desert snake, your help is like, there's nothing there. And I remember I was driving one time. We had to drive someplace, and we're outside the city, and I looked around and there was nobody there. I said, if we break down, I said we're done. That's all I could think of. I said, do we have no water in the back? I said, 'cause if we break down, we're done. So I would say that if you've ever driven in the Southwest, it's kind of like that. But even with 2 hours, you'll still see like sparseness. For them, that didn't happen. It didn't occur. Now, what they will have, they'll have plenty of power poles. They'll have plenty of electricity, transformer towers, everything else like that. But there's just no people there. That's just how it goes. It's just very, very vast.
I wanted to ask you another question. You had indicated that they knew who we were, but they thought that we would be slaves forever. Um, what's the feedback? I mean, how did that conversation transpire?
Okay, so while I was on out there, you know, I would get into some conversations with folks, just to kind of see what they knew, see what was happening, because I'd like to know, the environment of, look, they pay attention to us. Believe it or not, they pay attention to us. Don't think that that we're just here. Okay, we're just here. Oh, we're just getting shot and killed. Oh, police violence, yada yada yada. No, they're looking, they're seeing. Okay, what are they going to say? How are they going to react? How are they going to interact? You know, they know this is kind of a crazy thing. When you had done the study of the desert shall bloom, you did that study. I went to Qatar, and I was on out there, and it was just the rain was still like standing and everything else. And they had said like, yeah, this is like the wettest rainfall on record here in Qatar. Then I had gone on out to the empty quarter, and I looked and I said, I can't believe it's so humid. It's like Tampa. It's humid, but there's no rain anywhere. And I said, is this normal? They said, well, it generally is, but it's not normal for it to be this humid this long, you know? And now what's happening is the rain is there and it's consistent. I mean, it's consistent. They don't even know what's going on. It's it's that crazy. Because I'll still ask, and I'll still talk to some of the folks that I knew, and they'll let me know what's going on. But while I was there, you know, I was talking to them because a lot of things were transpiring throughout the world. And so as I was asking, I said, so, you know, so what do you think? Because I tell them, I said, look, this is what I think. This is my understanding, you know, and I'd explain to them, I'd give them scriptures, you know. I said, look, you don't have to really believe what the Bible says. I said, but it really does make a compelling argument. I said that this is happening, that's happening. Oh, and by the way, you're talking to a black guy, quote unquote black guy, that's understanding what's going on. So a lot of the folks, they would know and they'd understand and say, yeah, we see it. We see it because we really can't say anything out in the open because, you know, they're in a highly authoritative society. But they said, yeah, they know, they understand what's happening because they see YouTube. I see YouTube. I see you all. I see what you all are talking about. I can't say anything because you know, if I say something, it's going to be traced on back and yada yada yada, and you know, that's never a good thing. But we understand it. We see it. And I said, so what do the black communities think? It's like, you know, for them, you know, for them, first things first, you know, Muslims are Muslims. You know, that's the dynamic. But the thing is, see, they are also dealing with a paradox because see, for their folks, 70% of their folks there came from the trans-Saharan slave trade. So if they were to have any type of social upheaval or any other changes in dynamics, I would say, that becomes very difficult for them to manage. And right now, you know, they can't really shut off the internet because I mean, internet's internet, but they will try to actively monitor different web traffic. So one of those things that they actually don't monitor is obviously Google and YouTube. They'll have certain things that they'll allow, which is interesting. I gave some folks, you know, a lot of the teachings from you all, and just said, look, just something to kind of look and consider, and they'll see it and they'll be like, wow, yeah, I understand. I said, so what do you think? They're like, well, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff, but they really won't want to confirm that with you. And then as you kind of continue to approach every so often, it's like, yes, did you see this? Did you see that? Oh yeah. And you get engaged in a conversation, they'll kind of slip here and there, you know? So it's just a game of getting the puzzle pieces. Oh, okay. So where did you find that at? Oh, so how do you understand that? They'll tell you like, yeah, this is in our tribe. We understood this. We knew who those people were when we were taking them from out of East Africa, when we were getting them from out of Sudan, when we were getting them from out of Eritrea. And then you have to understand, oh man, this is how they have their power structures. Because see, it's easy for them to structure everything in the Islamic structure. Oh, okay. Well, every place that has that is the Islamic belt for the most part. Well, if you're in the belt and um, you're a black person there, or let me tell you, an Israelite there, because well, shoot, I'm not gonna go on over to that mess. I'm not doing anything that Ishmael's doing. I'm not doing anything that Edom's trying to concoct. No, I'm good. I'm good. This is what my forefathers knew. Nope, not anymore. You better, ship up and what, fly right. No, they weren't, they didn't get that opportunity. So they were just bringing them on over because what they wanted to do, they understood, okay, we're in a weakened state, but we can bring them on over. And then guess what? They can build for us. They can create things for us. They can manage things for us. And that was the premise of their um, trans-Saharan slave trade. That area, in terms of central Saudi Arabia, where you have Riyadh at, that area was like the hub because once you get to that area, because you everybody would know, okay, let's get them through Mecca because everybody knows the roads of Mecca. All right, but we're going to bring them here, and then when you get to this area of Riyadh, we're going to push them on out to other places because you would have Bahrain to the east, and you would also have um, Qatar, and you have UAE, you had Oman, you know. But it was kind of interesting because you really didn't have them a lot within Yemen or Djibouti. Those were just transit areas. So let me get them on in here, and we'll push them on out. So that's what you see because when you go to these other Arab countries, you look at it and it's like, wow, there's really a lot of black folks. This is very interesting, you know. But but they're always in their own pocket, so it's very interesting. And again, for them, well, I just got my taste of what a little bit of freedom looks like because we've only been 2 generations removed from chattel slavery, you know? And on top of that, they're looking at like, look, I'm not trying to mess with the status quo because guess what? You know, that the way that the Filipinos and the Indians and all the, the Pakistanis, look, that used to be us. I'm not trying to jeopardize my thing. I'm not trying to jeopardize, my situation. So it's definitely interesting because once you get those fragments, that's where it all comes together. And I'm telling you, back in 2019, so many things were going on. I was like, look, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is going to happen. And so as I was explaining things, they could understand. Oh man, where are you getting this information from? What's happening? I said, look, I said it's right. No, it's really. I'm looking at the word. I'm looking at this because just traditionally, Saudis and Iranians, they don't like each other. Well, why don't they like each other? Because one still believes in that Babylonian construct, even though they're saying they're quote unquote, Islamic. And the other is that Arabic construct. Well, Arabs are always what? They can't ever get anything together. But for them, the best thing that they had was Islam because that's the best thing they had to put everything together because they're always tribalistic. They're always fighting. So for them, and especially in this time frame, for their time of peace, which is now almost 80 years, this has been the most peaceful time that they've had because they've had the longest contiguous borders that's been established. You know, because it was really everything was so dynamic. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. Well, I know a Pakistani guy told my brother that they always knew who we were, but they feared Satan's devices. But it makes me wonder: is it really, just really Psalm 83 in effect? Same thing with the Saudis. maybe they had that devil handshake in order to keep the secrets, of who we are. But yeah, thanks for answering that. I didn't want to interrupt your picture and stuff, but thanks for the information.
I was getting ready to ask, do you want me to go back to the share screen so you can show photos?
Yes, because I want you to go down to the stones where
'Cause
it
I
says
wasn't quite sure where you wanted me to go, and let me see. Is this it?
scroll down just a little. It'll be on the plaque. There it is.
That right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want me to zoom in a little bit more?
Yeah, because I want them to kind of see like the fourth.
Okay.
They'll have fourth millennium type stuff.
No, I didn't mean to do that. Why did it do that? Hold on. Here we go. Okay. Every time I zoom in, it does this. So I guess this is it.
Yeah, that's I think that's as good as they're gonna get. And again, if they want to, they can obviously check out the photos at the Teo Ministries website. So that would be kind of the. Okay, so as I said, they use those stones as monuments, but for them, in terms of stones and monuments, it's always a feat of what I've done. That's the whole thing. It's a feat of what I've done. This is my stone. This is my monument. Look, I made these stones look like this. Oh wow. Okay, now we want to pray to this. Okay, why are we going to do that? For us, we would just be like, okay, yeah, we did this. This is that. Okay, yeah, that's nice. We would always try to do what? We always want to innovate on something. Oh, okay, well, if he had it like this, I'm going to do it like that because I'm going to tweak a few things. I'm going to do it with how I'm going to do it. Because, for us, we have a very artistic nature, whether we want to admit it or not. We'll be in the shower, just kind of come up with a little jingle. We'll wake up with a little song. We'll come on up. I think this is, if you did this or that, because our minds are thinking about different things. That's very just creative. That's just how it is. But it's an annoyance to other people, but that's our strength because we don't really dwell on a lot of things. You just kind of keep it moving. But for them, you got to understand, they had to dwell, okay? Because here's the environment that they're in. They're sitting in this plateau, this desert. And in terms of being able to work the desert, I don't think that they really quite knew or quite understood how to work it. And the reason I say that is because if you think about this, I always like to kind of go back to Jasher 47, and I like to look at when Isaac had died. So when Isaac had died, you had Israel and Edom doing what? Let's bring our clans and let's kind of hash this thing on out. What are we going to hash on out? Well, Isaac gave Israel the land. I want my land. I'm supposed to have the land and the cattle, but I just want the land. That's sacred to me. And then Esau's like, oh, look, I want everything. But they finally came to terms through what? Through a stone. And when you put the stone there, you put the monument on there, right? What were Abraham and Isaac always doing? Building up stones. It's not that I'm praying to the stone, but I have the stone there as a monument, as a memoriam of this is what was here, and that's what this means. This is what it means. This is what was agreed upon, and let this thing be a testament for generations to come. So as we had that understanding, their understanding was a little bit different because they like to say, well, you know, the Kaaba there in Mecca, we don't we don't worship it. You know, we throw stones at it because why? That's a double box. We throw stones at it. Well, yes, but you know, when you're bowing towards it, you know, look, act like a duck, quack like a duck, sound like a duck. You know, that's kind of what you're seeing. You know, and I mean, again, I'm not trying to mess with anybody's sensibilities because I'm not a Muslim. But when you kind of see the mannerisms, then you can understand. Okay, why do they have these mannerisms? Oh, and this correlates to what they've had in the past. Okay, that's that's the level of understanding. So just to kind of give you the standing stones, fourth millennium BC. Um, they definitely their timing and their time structures. Again, don't take that with a grain of salt. You know, because to be quite honest, whether intentional or unintentional, don't ever believe the time frames that they assign on anything, and that goes back into last week's discussion. So let me see. So as I'm going down,
You want me to go on down?
yeah, because if you want to bring up the black and white, that's a
Let me
that's a
zoom out a little bit.
so it's almost like that Rosetta Stone structure.
This right here.
Yeah, you know. So here's the thing. When you're in Egypt, you see the Rosetta Stone. They even tell you the Rosetta Stone was found in Rosetta, Egypt. That's why they name it the Rosetta Stone. But again, these stones were all right. I'm going to need to have something transliteration, transcription, you know, of all the different linguistic patterns that are here within the Northeast African, Middle Eastern constructs. But what that goes to show you was, you know, it's a little bit more advanced than what people would like to tell you. You know, if you're going to have three distinct languages, all right there, then obviously something was a little bit more than what they want to say. You know, it's a little bit more advanced than what they want to tell us. But this is something that I saw at the museum that I thought was very interesting, and I wanted to um, kind of cue in on that. So another one down, if you go down. It looks kind of like an old tombstone, but it's very ornate. You see the figures, I think, a little bit better, and even as you would see some wear and tear, you can kind of see some of the figures that are there.
It looks like Paleo Hebrew on this one.
Yes, and that's what I wanted to show you. So I think either last year or the year before, I sent you a picture, and I said, "Here, I'm over in Alexandria, Egypt, and I saw this museum because it was kind of on like the complex of uh the Library of Alexandria. So the Library of Alexandria burnt down. However, um, the superficial structure actually still remained, and they were able to kind of reimpose it, you know, doctor it on up. But there's like it's like a seawall. They made it kind of a seawall because there's like a little northern road that kind of um, goes alongside of the northern coast or the Mediterranean coast. And so when you're in Alexandria proper, you know, it's kind of like um, you know, what would I want to say? Like the West Side Highway in New York. You know, when you're in Manhattan, downtown New York, if you've ever gone on the West Side Highway, you're right there next to the water. But that's kind of how that was in terms of the roads. So you're right there, and then you kind of see towards the distance, it's like a building, and they said it was supposed to be the museum. So I'm going off of what the
That does
Egyptian.
look, I'm sorry, that does look like kind of like Paleo Hebrew. Quick question. Let's go back to the Alexandria, the School of Alexandria, the Museum of Alexandria. Do they talk about it much? Do they say, do they talk about the history behind it? Are there any things that you heard overall in the community about that library? Because the biggest thing is people are still wondering to this day how and why was the or how
Oh,
was
it's
the
burned down?
burned down. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. There's two different folklore in Egypt, and it just depends on the type of Egyptian, or the Egyptian that you're asking, and their relation to Egypt. Okay. So if you ask somebody from Cairo, they'll tell you one thing. If you ask somebody from Alexandria, you'll get a little bit more of a different perspective. Because for Egypt, a lot of those families that were still there during that time in Alexandria, they're still there. It's the same with Cairo. A lot of the folks that are in Cairo, we're still there in Cairo. That's why Egypt has it's a crazy population. It's almost like 100 million people. And then I think just in Cairo alone, it's like almost 22, 23 million people. That's a lot. But
What do they? I'm sorry. So I want to say thanks, Keith, for the super chat. So what does Egypt say?
all right, so the Egyptians, they know. Let me just put this on out there. The Egyptians know. And if you're really good with the Egyptians, they'll tell you. If you're really good with the Egyptians, they'll tell you.
So they know what, that who we are?
Yes.
And
yes.
they told you?
I've had a friend that's on over there. So where I've worked and how I've interacted with folks, they've told me. I got it from Djiboutians. I got it from a lot of folks, because once you kind of explain things to them, like, yeah, I know this, I know that, there are some people that will be eager to say, oh man, I'm glad that you have it. So you must be a Muslim. So, because, when you understand the truth, they're thinking, oh man, so how did you understand this when you're in Christianity? How did you understand this if you're, a Catholic? Oh man, you must be a Muslim. Because, only Muslims would kind of have the level of understanding and knowledge, because why? They say in their mandate is, look, Allah has allowed everybody to have understanding. Now, whether you want to have that understanding to be diminished because, you're doing this or you're doing that, then that's on you. But if you have that level of understanding, that means, the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, and they'll say, PBUH, or, peace be upon him. He has given you that ability to have foresight, because now if you know who you are, right, as a quote unquote Israelite, then guess what? You're now the what? You're the most your exercises of piety in Islam should now be very high tier, high profile, because that's what they're thinking. They're thinking on that structure of, oh, okay, you'll be able to promulgate Islam even more. But then when you tell them, it's like, well, no, because I look at it like this: we had the choice of the wood and stone, and now that we're understanding who we are as a people, now we're starting to understand these were the back doors, these were the traps that were able to keep us kind of mentally chained. So when people think about, well, if you know who you are as an Israelite, okay, well, what does that mean for us? Because you got to remember, if we know who we are as a people, they know who they are as a people. They know who was in the lands, not just their land, but in that area. And they know, okay, wow, well, if those people come back, and we've been lying to them, they're looking at it from a purely survival aspect. Okay, they come back, we're lying to them. Dang, we're gonna have we're going to have all these NFL looking linebackers messing us on up. And we can't have that happen. So they, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Dang. These
Yeah,
are all,
we don't want to face those guys when they wake up, right?
yeah. Look, LeBron James is just one of many. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're looking at. Shaq's, man, that's just one of many. So I mean, just think about this. Okay, well, dang. Let me find out. Let me see what I can do. Okay, so you know who you are. You're not necessarily Islam. Okay, so what does that mean? That's what they ask. What does that mean?
Well,
Because see,
you
for
make an
them,
interesting point because I was reading this article and well, I had to translate the French, and it's the same message as the Somalis, right? The Somali Jews, and this was about the Mandi. They all, you know, like the Mandis are in Islam. They always knew they were Jews, but they don't want to have nothing to do with it because it caused them so many problems.
bingo. But they know that. And I'm telling you, when you go on over there and you see us, you do. Like, oh man, that's my doppelganger. Dang, that's my brother's doppelganger. That's my cousin's doppelganger. Okay? Because you want to know why? We have such a strong genetic disposition. You know, I always think about it like, okay, dang, the Nazis had this thing terribly, terribly screwed up. I said, because we hold a strong genetic disposition. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody in their, most Black people in their family can trace to a white relative. They can. I was kind of flabbergasted when I did my little genetic tree and just kind of went throughout this awakening process. I said, okay, so let me find out who I really, really am. And then it ends up that my great grandfather was like a Civil War colonel. I said, okay, that's something to really not brag about. But it just shows you that, see, our confluence is, all right, our genetic structure will definitely overshadow. Because once we come back, it doesn't take us 3 or 4 generations. It takes us one. Okay? It takes us one. Yeah, my great grandfather, our great grandfather was mixed. Bam, there's my dad. My grandfather, he was light. He was light, but man, he looked like he was a Black dude, but he was light. Then it's my dad. Okay, he's dark. Then it's me. Okay, I'm tan. I'm brown, because you know he was darker. My mom was lighter, and that's it. But see, that's how it goes, because our structures, we wipe out. We wipe out any of the less dominant genes. This is how it goes. They always hate it. Oh man, you can tell that they're Black. You know, they always hate that. Well, how? Well, because look, you can see it. You can see it.
But that's how you know we were under the Most High's judgment, because I mean, first of all, we have the skin tone to take the heat, the hottest heat, right?
Mhm.
We have the physical dexterity to outperform anyone. That's why you can look in every sport and we excel. Now you take those skills and go to war. Now you understand why maybe those people could take down giants in the Old Testament, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and because I was liking it to forgive my ignorance, because Lisa Cabrera did a fantastic Memorial Day thing last year about World War I and the Harlem Hellfighters, and there's an African American, quote unquote, Black guy at a Harlem Hellfighters. He was in World War I. This dude ran out of ammo. He was in his foxhole defending his position. Lost part of his leg. Actually, not leg. Part of his foot. I lost part of his foot because he kicked the grenade out of there. But when he kicked the grenade out of there, it killed like 5 people. But he proceeded to kill over 100 people with his bare hands. With his bare hands. And you know, they only gave him an Army Cross. That was it. Now, he deserved the Medal of Honor, but of course, you're only going to get an Army Cross. But here's the problem. No other no other Medal of Honor recipient comes even close to that. Comes even close. Because here's the thing, they all have to do it with what? With a weapon. With a weapon. Let me tell you, ammo does get finite. Ammunition is finite. You know? And
Yeah.
that's the thing. A lot of people think, oh man, I can fight with my bare hands. No, you can't. No, you can't. I've had so many folks in my younger days, because I used to be an instructor, for some of the martial arts stuff. I was never really that big into martial arts. But then everybody at UFC came around. It's like, hey, let's go on out. Let's do some sparring and everything else. They didn't like it. They didn't like it because they're like, dang, how do you overpower all these folks? But when I would always go against another black guy, I said I have to do it skillfully, because why? He's going to have more of a natural prowess to do what? He's just going to use strength, and when it's strength on strength, then guess what? Somebody's breaking something. That's how it is. Somebody's going to break something. You're going to break a finger, a wrist, an arm, a shoulder, a leg, because we get so physically vertical. It's not even funny. That's why it's like, okay, if I emotionalize, I told you, it's like, you gotta, when I'm training you, I do these different things. I said, but here's the thing. If I get hit in the head, I tell them this. If I get hit in the head about 5 or 6 times, I said, I'm gonna hurt you. And I told them that just with sincerity, because I know in my mind, that's where we get. You remember? I don't know if people know this. I remember when I was when you're younger, right? When you're younger, somebody puts you to the limit. You start fighting, right? But what happens when you start fighting? What do we always do? We'll always have tears on our face, and we just start wailing away, right? And then you get up sniffling. Why are you crying?
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to fight. Why are you crying? Well, why? But that's what we do, because here's the thing: we just get emotional. But when we get emotional, look, we tap into that energy, and then that energy is like, dang, where did that thing come from? Where did that thing come from?
You just made me think about Samson.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. And I mean, I'm telling you, because it's sad. It's a funny story, but it's kind of sad, because when I switched over into the officer ranks, I went to school, and I mean, all I could do was, when I go to like the service schools and everything else, I was like, okay, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to get hurt, because then I can go back to my family, and I just don't want to be in school longer than anything. Because when I go to school, I'm always very academic. I'll do the little 3-mile runs. I'll do the runs. I'll do all the stuff. I want to be academic. So I went to school, and I went to school with all these, cadets and everything else. They came from out of, their elite service schools and things of that nature. And we're doing, like martial arts. And so I told the people there too. I said, I'm coming over from the Marine Corps, and I'm trying to become an officer and a gentleman. So don't. I said I will bring the killer out. So it was some enlisted guys, and they're like, yeah, right, because they always hear all that stuff. You think that you're an officer, big and bad. I was like, okay. I remember we were doing some training, and I just kind of got sick of training, because I was like, all right, I'm done. But then they're like, you're gonna get hit in the head. And I told them, I said, look, if you hit me in the head, I said, you are gonna regret it. It was some blocking moves. I did the little swing, but see, I already knew the mixed martial arts stuff. And so I did something that they didn't train, because they're expecting, this is what you do, do the little train. I did something completely different, and I wrapped around and I suplexed the guy without doing the snapback. And so I had him so wrapped in his midsection, I came through and I just yelled. I said, ah! I yelled. And the next thing I know, I put him down on the ground and he couldn't walk. He couldn't walk. And so I said, you okay? I said, you okay? And then he was like, he like kind of waved me on over. You can't, like, to get away. For the most part, he waved me like, you're done with the exercise. Don't do anything else. He laid there for like 3 or 4 minutes, and his pride was his pride was shaken, and it was another black guy, but his pride was shaken because of what I did to him. Because at that time I'm 29 years old, and all these other folks are like 22, 23, getting on out of college and everything else, and so. He was thinking, okay, I get to beat down on people and nobody's going to say anything else. So I kind of felt bad. I said, dang, I think I actually broke him. And so the next day he sees me and said, hey, sir. He was like, man, I don't know what you did. He said, but what you did to me, he said, it felt like my spleen was about to crack. I said, well, I said, I told you. I said, look, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I said, but that's just the instinct. I said, I'm going to protect myself. When I protect myself, I'm going to use some things. And I tell these to my kids. I said, look, if you get in a fight, I said, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. And so when I had my daughter, she was getting in a fight. I don't know why it's always other black folks that like to test other black folks. We always do this to each other. And I just told her, I said, just pray for him, just pray for him. And then something that happened. And I said, and I told this, I said my daughter's name. I said, hey, listen, there's a time of peace and there's a time of war. Because we tried to go through, be all nice, told the school, told the bus, did all this stuff, right? But my daughter, she plays soccer, competitive soccer. She was playing for years. And at that time, I think she was about 13 or 14. And the girl was, it was another black girl. And I felt bad. I said, kid, because we actually went, we talked to her mom, like a couple times. I said, I said, man, oh man. Because you see the buildup coming. Okay.
So quick question. So back to this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get done, I don't want us to kind of get away from this picture because I was looking at it and it has a lot of good information. So you do know this is paleo, right?
So I'm not going to classify it, but it does have a lot of the script in there. So if you kind of look within that, right under that crack, you see a lot of the characteristics.
Yeah, especially right here.
Yeah.
I've seen this before.
Now what they don't tell you is, look, we see it. That's why I took a picture of it. We see it. But see, they have it plain as day in the museums because they just say, well, it's just something old and it looks kind of cool. So we just put it on display. That's what they do. Because here's the thing. The choreographers or the museum folks that put all these displays together, they don't understand. They understand it to their knowledge, but they don't really have a clear, distinct knowledge of really what's going on. So that's why I said those gems. That's a solid gem right there, because you start to kind of see, oh man, they're just hiding things in plain sight.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this. Does it have any information on it, or you couldn't take pictures of it? Oh, down here.
It was kind of, so that's actually the chart. But when you look at the chart, it's very disingenuous because if you look at that kind of the upside down E structure or the flip flop E structure, it doesn't really give you very It's not very, it doesn't have a very good denote. It doesn't connotate a lot of the stuff that we would look for. It just kind of shows, okay, from this period to that period, this is what it looked like, but it doesn't give you the full structure. And that's why they try to stay away from it, because you actually would see, you start to see the derivatives of what? Yahuwah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is Arabic is nothing but a Semitic language, which is somewhat like a derivative of Hebrew. And
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yes. So it's a Aramaic language. That's what they
Yeah,
call it.
Aramaic. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
my question is, I want just open air question is, how different is Aramaic maybe to some of the ancient words in Hebrew, right? Like, the word tuawat is Torah in Arabic, but I'm like, could that have, like I was just reading something today and it was saying, that the Jews of Arabia, of the west of Sub-Sahara, called it Tuawat. But then they said it was Arabic, and I'm like, well, okay, I know they have, um, some Muslims out there, but could that have been their language as well? I mean, Ishmael was Jacob's half brother, right?
Yeah.
well, and that's why I like to go to Jasher, because you have to understand. You have to understand this. Okay, so this is just let's just kind of break down the gems. All right, we have English here in America, right? They have English in the UK, Great Britain, right? I may call it a cookie, you call it a biscuit. Okay? I call it a sandwich, or let me tell you. I call it bacon. I really don't eat much pork. But when I had eaten pork, I call it bacon. You would call it bacon, but that's not the same type of bacon that I'd call it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Yeah, their bacon is like a slice of ham. Your bacon is, yeah, like what we have in America.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I would say I plagiarize with a Z. He plagiarizes with the S. Okay, those are those different things. So then, as the linguistic patterns start to deviate away from each other, this is why we have translation and a transliteration, because those are those linguistic patterns. They start to deviate. So at the same time that you had Jacob and Esau, then you had Israel and Edom. Then guess what? Some things they look. Well, this is what my papa says. Dang, well, why does your uncle say that? Oh, because he did this or they said that. It's just where your environmental structures. That's how it dictates. So for them, their environmental structure was a little bit different, because think about this. We were in Egypt, right? They were in basically Arabia, Mount Seir. Our
Right.
interactions, if you looked at everything, our interactions from even Esau's time, from Edom's time, our interactions were never good. They're never good interactions. Imagine you always had to be like, oh man, we gotta see our family. Dang, I gotta go to the funeral, see my brother. He's gonna be on some of that mess. He's gonna be on that stuff. Kids, when you talk to your cousins, just kind of, be polite and cordial. All right? Because we have family like that. We do have family like that. And they'll be like, hey, can a brother, hey, we family, can I hold something? Times are tough. but that's how we are, because that's how we've always operated. We've always operated under that structure. But for us, we don't understand. For them, in their living situation is, man, this thing is life or death. It's life or death. Because why? If I don't have enough water, man, this is gonna hurt. Or if I don't have enough cattle, it's going to hurt. See, what did God say? He said, hey, Jacob, Jacob, go down to Egypt and you're going to be all right. Because why? The whole world had a what? Famine. Okay, so why is God blessing Israel on over there in Egypt, and look at us suffering here in Canaan? You know, we're eating scraps. Half of our cattle is dead. Their cattle is fat. They're living in Goshen. Man, they're on the Delta. They're right at the Nile River. Man, they got water for days. And look, they sold out this grain. They got all this stuff for days. Because you have to understand, it's imperative that we have to kind of look beyond the picture that the Bible is painting, and you have to understand, what does that mean even for today's time frame. I look at it like this. You know that Mr. Pillow commercial? You know, what was he on right now? He said, Egyptian cotton, you know, and the Delta. Well, here's the thing. We knew plumbing skills. We knew plumbing. We knew how to irrigate. We knew how to draw the water and to break that water down to what? Get to the crops. We knew all that. Now just think about it. Just think, if we had all that ingenuity, okay, that we would actually have in reverse. We had the ingenuity to have in reverse desertification. Man, wow. Look at what they're doing in Egypt. Yeah, but there's some Hebrews on down there. Well, look what those Hebrews are doing, right? They were like, you could tell in Joshua they're singing our praises. Look at what Joseph's doing. Man, he knew how to do that. Look at what Simeon brought. Look what Levi did. Man, these folks are smart. Because here's the crazy thing. If you know that we had already built up the storehouses, because that was our projects. Because why? It said, look, the Egyptians had to deal what? Wisely and shrewdly with the children of Israel. I'm about 5'11".
In other words, let's use the mind game on Israel.
Yeah.
You know, instead of going directly at war with them, let's manipulate them, right?
Yeah. Why you don't look? To this day, Egyptians they're still small. They're still slender. Think about us. We're still thick. What did I always say? You know, thick, not heavy. What did I always used to call us? I remember my grandmother. I wasn't really fat, but you know, we weren't gonna be in those regular sizes. You know, or you're husky. Well, why are you husky? Because my grandmother would have us going out there working, cutting bushes, cutting the grass, you know, doing all sorts of stuff. Because why? We had a little bit of land. Look, when we're gonna take care of it. My grandmother was from out of South Carolina, and having a little bit of land and especially in South Jersey. Oh man, I got a couple acres. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Had the farm. Had things in the ground, in the field. So we would always be on out there working. You know, but obviously it was a black area, but the other kids were what? Our sizes. Okay, it's our size. Then when you go to what? You go to school and you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm a little bit thicker than this guy. I got a little bit more mass than this. I got a little, you know, and then you start seeing them kind of complaining about stuff. It's like, oh, well, that's not fair. Then you started understanding school. Oh man, okay, I actually overpower him. You get that? Oh man, I actually overpower him.
Imagine the people like that you described, like us. How in the world we dead last? How could any nation? How can any nation overthrow us? You know, I mean, you like the Most High had to be involved. You just can't win. You can't beat us on the field. You can't. You know, it had to be the Most High. You just can't beat us on the battlefield one-on-one.
Well,
But go ahead.
and honestly, and that was really the case, because you got to remember, you got to remember, you want to actually know what kind of scared America. That was the Revolutionary War. That was the Revolutionary War. Hey, what do we always see? I was looking the other day at the movie The Patriot. I was looking at that movie The Patriot. It was funny because The Patriot, the Mel Gibson character, he was a colonel or general from out of South Carolina. And if you pay attention to the details of the movie, they were saying, hey, for any slave, any Negro that participates in the revolution, George Washington is going to grant immunity, or you'll no longer be a slave, you'll no longer do this, that, and you'll have what? So a little bit of money and things of that nature. To what? To fulfill the American dream. You can live how we live. Oh yeah, that's all I wanted. Okay, sign me up. I just need to fight, do my thing. Okay.
So quick question. So, because I'm looking at photos, I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. What is this right here? What is this? Mount Seir, picture of a temple. What is this? I know this can't be, but it possibly can be. What is this?
All right. So this gives you the design of the prototypical structure and building structures of Arabia. So if you look at the little insets, the little flower, what is that flower reminiscent of? You still see the same things.
In Rome.
In Rome. That's right.
Wow.
Okay, go up just a little bit and show kind of the eagle. I don't think I cropped that up. Yeah. See that?
Right here.
Yeah. The wings. That's what you're seeing.
And this represents what? The Saudi Arabian Empire, or?
Well,
Because it looks like Esau's architecture, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's the typical Edomite or Edomite architecture, because they're in the mountains. They're carving, right? You start what? Top down, and you carve it on out.
What is that? What is that temple that looks like this? I can't remember. It's not Mount Seir, but it's kind of a reddish temple, and it says that it's the temple for the Edomites something, and it's similar to this. And I can't remember it. I cannot remember the name of it.
So all throughout Saudi Arabia, you'll see these designs, these structures, and they're always kind of north and to the west of the city. That's when you start getting into the desert of Zin and towards the Tabuk area. Excuse me. But as you
it's Petra, as someone just said.
Yeah.
So it's Petra. So I actually have pictures of Petra also, and it's the same structure, because you have to remember, they're all taking the same routes. And so if you're there and, well, I'm going to start carving some things out of the mountain, then guess what you're going to start running across? Different minerals, different materials. Oh man, there's some gold up in here. There's some silver up in here. So, let me have something, something nice in the entryway. Because what? We do the same thing, right? Well, I'm going to have this little door frame so it doesn't look all junky. We can have something, carve it on out, make it look really nice. But that's the structures that they were having, because when they would do that, you would do something top, you go from the top, and then you work it down. Because why? You don't have ladders at that time. You don't have scaffolding equipment. So that's what you would have. All right. So if you want to move down, I have the little figurines there.
Yeah, these.
Yeah. So if you see the figurines coming on up, I also have some from the Qatari, the Qatar National Museum. I'm going to put all this on. This is just kind of a little bit of a project. These figurines, these were their household gods. Okay. Remember with what? Remember with Jacob he had Rebecca, right? Rebecca did what?
Idol.
Rebecca
Kept
was
all
sitting
idols.
for idols, right?
Yep.
We're sitting the household gods. See, they know, okay, they knew of, all right, there's a God most high. All right, there's a God most high. If I'm in a jam, I'm gonna go to the God most high. But you know, if it's something a little minor, then guess what? I'm just gonna let my little idols take care of it. You know, I'll kind of say a word to them. I'm not praying to them. I'm just saying a word. Hey, how you doing? You know, here's this, here's that. You know, take care of my problems, right? Um, Fast forward to today's time. Who does the same practices? Because if you go up to what you had just seen with the Romans, if you go on up with those flowers, the little, I think those are pomegranate flowers, if I'm not mistaken. If you go up to the little pomegranate flowers, it's the same thing that's on the Pope's his dress. It's the same thing. And I wanted to go into Rome so bad. I wanted to go into Rome so bad. I didn't get enough time. I wanted to go there just to kind of, you know, go through, take a quick little look, take some pictures, and just kind of go from there. But these are the same things, because here's the thing: when you start to understand the people, you start to get everything framed on out. Okay, so if Kittim and Esau became one, then guess what? They're going to become one in everything. You know, it was just our little bit of land in Canaan that kind of what we cut off the structure. We cut off what the Silk Road. We cut off what the Arabian Triangle. So what do? We were eliminating their power from their base, their stronghold, right? So for now this period of time that we were scattered, well, this is the best time of their lives. Why? Because here's the thing: there's a people that we had to worry about because they have the heavenly birthright. They have the heavenly claim. So if we can kind of, you know, keep them stymied, then guess what? Our world should be easy. But the problem is everybody's going to be on a tiered system in the world, because that's how Edom worked. It was a tiered system. Edom was a tiered system. If you think about our system, what was our system? We would just have what? Representatives. Get your representatives on out, Moses. Why? Because you would have this, you'd have that, you'd have this, you had that. Where would you learn that from? Jethro. Jethro who? The Midianite. Oh. So Jethro was a cousin of ours. He had some leanings with Abraham. He's been around who? Around Esau. See, we don't like to understand we were there with them, so they know who we are. Now, pigmentation changed, but they knew who we were. The geography changed, but they understood who we were. Okay, so we know who they are. We just have to kind of move pieces around, you know, miseducate some stuff here, miseducate some stuff there. But great, 400 years, this thing is working like clockwork. Uh-oh. Why are these black folks saying what they're saying? Why are these black folks, you know, telling things that we haven't told them? This, Does anybody know who they've been talking to? who's been letting out the secret? Well, I don't know. I was just reading my Bible one day, and then the Holy Spirit spoke to me. Wait. There's a Holy Spirit? Yeah, the Ruach HaKodesh. Wait. You got that from the Bible? No, because we done edited that thing so much. How did you understand it? How did you get it? Well, because there's a reference here, there's a reference there, there's a reference there, there's a reference there. Because God is what? He's a God. He does things multiple times. That's why God was what? He's what? Omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. He is everywhere. He is everywhere. He is in all things. So Lord, please reveal something to me. So I don't go, so I'm not going crazy because I think you said that we're the people. Oh, it's right here. Oh, it's right there. So when I did awake and I went to Jordan, I was going everywhere. I said, okay, well, this is Jordan. If Jordan is, basically the land of what? Simeon, Reuben, and what, Manasseh, right? Half tribe of Manasseh. If they're on over there, then obviously I should see something. So go up to Nebo, going down to Petra, going all over the place, just looking at different things, going down to the Dead Sea and the baptismal sites. You know, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that are there, but they're going to do what? They're going to put it to you in plain sight. They're going to put it to you in plain sight. Well, I wanted to go into Israel. You know what they told me? Nah, you're not going to be able to go. I said, why not? Well, it's because. It's because. I said, okay, what is that supposed to mean? And I didn't think too much of it. I said, you know what? If God wanted me to go there, the Most High wanted me to go there, then the Most High would have allowed me to go. I said, that's not that big of a deal. I said, but I'm going to continue to look here and look there. Yeah, look all over the place. You could find it. It was shown. So on this screen right here, remember when Yeshua has said with the millstone, if you want to go back on up the millstone. So I have a pamphlet, and the pamphlet, it's your standard 8.5 by 11 trifold. But I put that there because I wanted you to see what what Yeshua said. Hey, if you cause any one of my sheep to be misled, it's better than you to what? To tie that millstone around your neck and to be thrown into the sea. That's the millstone. That's a big old millstone. So that's just something I wanted to kind of to highlight because it's a good picture. That thing was at least 4 foot 4 foot circumference. That was a pretty good size.
Yep. That I'm sorry I had to step away, but okay. So you want me to move to the next one or is it?
Yeah, to kind of go down.
Okay.
All right. So here's some other stuff. But I want you to kind of take a look at when the screen comes on up. You'll start to look at, these are the little coins, necklaces, the jewelry of that time. But if you look at the figurines, you'll see that the figurines, they depict stuff that's very Hellenistic or Roman for the most part. So that Greco-Roman architecture was very prevalent. So these things are, well, it has to be a happenstance or circumstance. Well, I mean, you can argue whatever you want, but I'm just saying from what the book of Jasher's perspective and the word of God's perspective, you see that everything is starting to kind of line up the way that the text is aligning. So I like to kind of see, look, they were already pressing gold coins. They had ornate jewelry, work and everything else. But you also had to remember, who else had ornate jewelry work? Who was known for that? It showed. It showed who I think it was, one was from the tribe of Dan and the other was from the tribe of Judah. That we did what? We laced over the covenant with the thin gold, right? then gold, lace it on over. The acacia wood. Because what? God wanted to have ornate gold work on there, right? So we knew a thing or two about having to make gold look nice, because that was in the Bible. So that scrap, that craft and that trade, these are all the things that we had lost, but at the same time, we have a lot of ingenuity. We gain it on back, because if there's something that we want to do, we'll get it done. that's just how it goes. If there's something we want to do, we get it done. Okay, well let me read a book. Let me do this. Man, how are you that good? What school did you go to? I didn't go to a school. I just picked up a book and I was like, look, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Shoot, I'm gonna be a plumber. I need to fix my toilet. I'm not gonna call a plumber. I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Okay. Before there was the internet, it was called the library. You know, that's do-it-yourself section at the library. Okay.
Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, that's what it was, right? Okay. Well, let me check out this. But that's where we see a lot of the influence, or what I would say the confluence of, they try to say it's a different system or different empires, but you can clearly see these things are they're very intertwined.
Okay, go to the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you go down, these are just the bowls and everything else that you would have for the modern, or I wouldn't say modern, but the historical pots. And if you all can give me 5 minutes, because I wanted to break this thing on down. So what we had in the pots with the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? They were preserved, and I think they found them in like in the 1990s or something, in a cave, preserved, in pretty decent condition for how old they were. But they weren't exposed really to the elements because they're hidden away in a cave. But they were also hidden away in a cave in a pot. So these pots would actually serve as your vaults. Okay, those were your safety boxes at that time. So the reason I say that is because you didn't have a majority, you didn't have a large amount of trees back then. Even with the trees, the way that construction is, because it's all going to start to make sense, because I put some pictures down there for some historical construction, especially there in the Arabian Peninsula. But the way that it all went, everything was through clay and straw, just like what Pharaoh had said, right? You got to mix these bricks, get these bricks mixed, get the straws, bake them out in the oven, which is the sun, bake them out in the sun, because you have to let them set up, because once they set up, then you would have the mortar and you just let it go. And then once that mortar goes, those things are tough. I felt it. I put my hands on it. I said, wow, I can understand how they did that. Then you just do what? You just kind of get a little bit of you get something gritty, put in some paste, get something gritty, and then you can just sand it down, make it smooth. You won't even see the straw or any of the other texture, because that was mortar, just like what we have with our wallpaper. Or excuse me, not sheetrock. So they were using the same structure back then. But just going back to the way that the pots would work, those pots you would be able to do what? Put the documents in there. And because of the lack of trees, one of the first things that they were doing, especially in Egypt, so a lot of the stuff we learned in Egypt, we brought with us, you get the papyrus. Papyrus is everywhere. Get the papyrus, cut it down. All right, we're gonna cut it down, then we're gonna do, start pressing it down, keep pressing it, and I think the process, I was told the process is about 5 or 6 days. But in 5 or 6 days, you have what? You'd have paper. Now, here's the thing. I have people that are, what do? They do parchment products. Parchment products. All right. We're just gonna do them in mass. It was no Georgia Pacific, paper, or they didn't have a paper industry, but their papyrus industry was huge. Because why? Papyrus is very malleable and it's very doable. They weren't putting this thing on like paper, the way that paper is processed. But if you have a good product, it would be Egyptian paper. That's where their scrolls were coming from, out of Egypt, Egyptian paper. Okay, we can roll that thing on up. It was flexible. Okay, the way they did it, all right, it wasn't as rough. You can transcribe on the ink and have everything right there, and guess what? It would never come off because of the qualities of that paper. But who was doing it? The Egyptians were doing it. Okay, so if the Egyptians were doing it, they had a system. All right, well, we're gonna do what? We're now going to export that. So now I go back to Jasher 47, because when they did the separation, because that's when Jacob had said, fine, Esau can have all the cattle, then the gold and everything else. I don't care. I want the land because this is my birthright. And then they did what? They put it on the documents, they put on the papers, and then they used that as a everlasting covenant. Not just as sometimes covenant, it's an everlasting covenant. And then they did what? They put it in, they sealed it on up. They put it in their bowls, they sealed it on up. Because those pots, look, if you wanted to make something ice cold, you could actually make things ice cold using the pots, because it was sort of like a refrigeration system before cooling. Because you keep a bowl inside a bowl inside a bowl inside a bowl until what? Until the temperature, the insulation causes that coolness to be, it's an insulated coolness. It was like reverse Gore-Tex. It's going to keep it very, very cold. So you actually could have some sort of a ventilation system. And I hope my other picture kind of clarifies it, because that's what they would do in the desert. When they were starting to build cities, they'd have these little rooms. They'd have the rooms, and inside the central area of the house, usually at the top, it was always encompassed. That's why they always use that. That's why, if you want to understand their mentality of why like their water tanks are always at the top, it's because that's how they used to process things. Look, I'm gonna keep my water at the top, because why? It always comes down. They don't really, because worst case scenario is, if my electricity goes out, I don't have to worry about water because my tank is at the top. So gravity will just continue to keep the water flow going. So that's kind of the ingenuity there. And these are just some other little things that they would have in terms of, what they would do to decorate their homes, things of that nature. So, but it's definitely very fascinating to see how pottery was very not just lucrative, but it was very, very necessary to have some sort of a legalistic approach. Okay, if you wanna go down,
Also, we got about 7 more minutes. So let me see. Here we go.
yeah. So this is just some more of the I want to say Sanskrit, but this is just some more Arabic writing that's coming on. And if you notice, the Arabic writing would always have different forms. And the reason that actually had different forms is because you can kind of see things are starting to kind of progress and transgress because it was um, a very transient era or area. So that transient area, everybody would have their own little bit of influence on there, but the graphics still kind of remain the same. So this kind of is a little bit of that right there. Okay. So let you pull this on up. So these are the rocks. Again, once it starts pulling up on the screen. So again, these marks, what were they? Remember, don't move boundary stones. Well, what would a boundary stone look like? I used to always think about that. What was Moses talking about in those Levitical laws to not move boundary stones? Well, this is what a boundary stone looks like.
Wow.
You know, hey, I'm marking it down. This thing is big. Now, if you notice, those are regular tiles. Those are about 12 by 12. Those are pretty big. Those are some good sized tiles. And you see that those are your limestone rocks. So just think about that. Just think about that. It would be a project to get the mule loaded, to get the pulley on up there, to get underneath the rock, to get folks to try to move the rock and then get it to its destination. It was a project. But that's why. Because those are big old stones. Okay, so if you kind of scroll down.
Yeah, I'm at the camels. You want to see the camels or?
Yeah, I'm going to show the camels.
There we go.
Okay. All right, so this is it. this is what Saudi Arabia really looks like. This is it. You see, the horizon is kind of, a limitless horizon for the most part. That's it. But at the same time, you're going to see a lot of these camels going on. This was actually more towards a valley. We're in a valley area, but you could still understand the valley was still very vast. It was very vast. So now kind of going down.
So, Karis, I had a question.
Yeah.
When you told the Middle Easterners, let's just call them that, who we were, did you ever get any pushback? No, you're not, or anything like that, or they just was like, "Oh, hey, how did you know?" Yeah, we know that already.
Well, because I think it was really my approach about it. Because before I would even say anything in terms of who we are, I would always kind of preface everything in the conversation like, hey, this is this and this is that, so what do you think about this or what do you think about that? And I said, then it would be a lead in for the most part. I kind of lead on in. I say, well, Black folks, we understand that we're the people. And they said, well, what do you mean you're the people? I said, we're starting to understand that we're the biblical Israelites in the Bible because of what we've had happen to us just off of history alone. And I said, okay, well, how do you also know that? I said, because you have this and you have that and you have this. So they would kind of say, okay, well, that's understandable. And then you get to the curses with them and say, look, even here, you have Black folks because of the trans-Saharan slave trade, which means that they were led into captivity into what? The four corners of the earth. And then they said, well, well, they're not really Israelites. They're still, they're slaves. Because see, for them, it's hard for them to formulate, their folks. Okay, yeah, I understand that. Just because I see you all on TV, I know how gifted you all are. I know what you all have done for America. Okay, I understand that. Well, for us, for us here, okay, I get it. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of there are a lot of Saudis that were there. They would say, yeah, I understood that, because a lot of them, they know, they would kind of, first and foremost, I'm an American there in the Middle East. Second, I'm a Black American there in the Middle East. Okay, okay. Well, who are you? What are you doing here? Why am I going to have a conversation with you? So those are always the angst. Because here's the thing. We used to joke. I would, in the office, we kind of joke about the one movie that the Dictator. We used to joke about that, but then you realize it wasn't a joke, because right 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 before I got there, 6 months earlier, they did what? They put all those princes in the Ritz Carlton, and they turned that into a prison. They literally turned it into a jail. And so, for them, it's like, well, shoot, if princes can, get disappeared, it's not a big deal if it's me. And there are some Saudis that are like, well, you know what? Look, inshallah, God is good. Okay, you're starting to find out who you are, because here's the thing: there are some Islamic prophecies to that. And I'll get down to one regarding the empty quarter when I get on down there. But this is that little, like, that cliff right there towards the middle. That's called the edge of the world. And when you get on top of that cliff, you are seeing for miles and miles and miles. So this is just north of, it's just north of Riyadh. So it's really good, because it gives you a strategic advantage, especially if you have your Ottomans, your Turkish invaders coming through, trying to get into the heart of the Arabian Peninsula. So if you always took a look, a lot of empires, they would kind of claim the Arabian Peninsula, but none of them really had a major foothold in the Arabian Peninsula, just because the amount of the logistics getting there, and that strategic advantage. Now, if you had the strategic advantage, I mean, everything's fine. But if you didn't, then it can become an issue, especially when you're able to kind of see all of the people moving throughout the area. That's where you had all your, Arabian bandits and all the other stuff. So that was kind of that precipice of those myths and things of that nature. But if government was good and government was centralized, then everybody, you could tell what was happening, because when you move, especially there's a lot of dust, a lot of sandstorms, and what happens, you know that the dust is coming through, the winds are coming through, but the problem with the winds, those winds, just, if you kick up anything, it's gonna alert everybody. Yep, there's movement there, or somebody's going there. So you can always tell that there's a car coming like 15 minutes ago from like some old dusty road, and then it pops up on the highway, and it's like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Okay, so we want to go down. There's just a few more picks, and then this kind of wraps things on up.
Okay, and I have a question, but Melinda, I'm gonna get to your question once we get to the last few. But Melinda, 1973, has a question, and she said it's for anybody on the panel. So, what's your next one? This one?
Yeah. So this was actually built in around the 1600s. but it's still built with kind of it's an open air concept. Okay. So if you kind of look towards the top, if you want to go towards the top of the screen, yeah, more towards there, you really can't see it, but they have like the logs that are there. They're kind of poking up. So if you look towards the corner of the room at the top, you see logs. So the logs were there to kind of provide the support, the supporting frames, and then everything else was all the mortar. So everything that you see was all mortared up. But what they would also do in the mortar, they would also have like little tunnels in the mortar, like little tubes. They'd have the little tubes in the mortar. So they'd have the floor, but the floor would kind of have its own little tubular structure in there, because what they would do, they would pour water into the little tubular structures, and that water was going to be cold, because at their little top areas, what they would do at the little top areas, that's where they would have their little pot designs to keep everything cool. The name of the game for them was, how do I keep things cool? Well, if I keep things dark, right, and I insulate that darkness with, more of the shells or more of the insulation, I can keep it cool. So that's how they did it. And on top of that, they would use it, and they put it through the walls, they put it through their floors, and then it would drain out. So if you looked at their the old wall or the old structures, you would see like little slopes, and you would see little spouts. So those spouts would allow for the drainage of the water, because if the water stayed in there and it wasn't constantly being fed new water, then guess what you're going to have? You're going to have mold. Because I don't think, well, no, because they had salt. So I don't think you really would have that much of a mold problem, because I'm pretty sure somebody figured out that you can use lots of salt to to control the mold issue. Okay, so if you want to go down. Okay, so this is Ruba al-Khali, or the empty quarter. So the reason that comes on out, and the significance of Ruba al-Khali, the empty quarter. So there's actually an Islamic prophecy that when the empty quarter becomes green again, God's children is set to return. So remember what I was telling people. I was just looking at this today, of storms in the area, thunderstorms, and these folks are like, oh my goodness, because the storms are so intense. They've never seen anything like that. But that's their Islamic prophecy. Once that starts greening up again, God's children's back.
How is that spelled? So I can put it in the chat for the people.
Empty quarter.
Just the empty quarter. Okay. And where is it again? In
that's in Saudi Arabia.
Just in okay. I was just trying to see. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. All right, you can continue. I'm sorry. I was just trying to make sure everybody got that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So again, scrolling down, I think this is kind of the final picture. All right. So this is what I was showing you. If you look at the as this picture's scrolling on up. Okay. So you kind of look at the little, so leave the picture where you're having it, because it's going to clearly demonstrate it. All right. So you kind of look at the parapets that's right there. The reason that they have the parapets right there, well, that is because what I'm going to do, I'm going to shoot bows and arrows. If I have somebody invading, guess what the best thing to do? Let them come through. All right. we have invaders come through. All right, because why? I have an advantage. I'm just going to shoot arrows at you, throw bricks at you. That's fine. But what I do want to show you, if you see right in the middle of this, that's why I got that picture. Right in the middle of this, there's kind of like a little awning, and then above the awning, there is a little bit of a water spout that's coming out. That water spout, they have it coming out because that's how they would have the water basically matriculate throughout their ventilation system. And then you can kind of see the other holes throughout the building. That's also where the water would come on out. They just made sure that with that water spout, it wasn't in the way of the window, you know? So somebody said, look, we can't have that little hole right above my window. This thing ain't gonna work. So, but that was the construction right there that provides, you know, the clarity of how they would keep things cool, and especially in extremely hot areas. Okay. No, yeah, and that's it.
So I got one question right now. So, and this is for everybody on the panel. Melinda 1973 says, anyone on the panel, do you think that the so-called Great Awakening regarding the Anon movement, is attempting to overshadow the true awakening of the biblical Israelites, which are us?
Okay, me. So personally speaking, here's the thing. We always have to look in context of the timing. Mm-hmm. It's all context of the timing. Look, if you knew that God was going to have a worldwide awakening, all right, and he was going to start in with the people that's sitting in the seat, all right. Now, I think of it like this. I look at it honestly like this. You can go off of the 12 charts, you can do whatever you want. But here's the issue. When you actually know who you are, you know why they brought us here. Just think about that. You know why they brought us here. And if you know all the inventions that we did and all the technologies that we've provided, then you start to understand, okay, there's a reason. You know, I think for most of us, when we're growing up, we would always be what? Invalidated. You're invalidated. Why? Look, you're just a black person that we just brought here from Africa because, you know, we wanted to make you feel special by chaining you up, chaining your ancestors up, bringing you on the slave boat, having you work some fields and plantations, and you made us rich. Because what were you doing in Africa? You just, you know, swinging from vines like Tarzan. So when you start to understand, there's a little bit more than that. There's a little bit more than that. Because here's the thing. You start seeing it with other countries right now. What do they always talk about? Brain drain. Right? We always see that. Brain drain. Well, what's the definition of brain drain? It's when you have your smart, intellectual leaders of innovation, technology, all the good things that has a kingdom being able to function. When you have them up and leave the country, in this case, it was up and leave the country by force. It wasn't up and leave the country based off of economic disparaging or, you know, disparity. We tried to look at it and we're like, well, you know, I guess we were just, you know, what they told us. But then you realize, man, we did all this, and this. What would America have been without us? Nothing. Nothing. So if you already know that we've had 400 years and everything is coming to a halt or a hill for the most part, because we can see how things are coming down the line, we can start to understand, okay, this is what God was meaning. This is what the Most High was saying. This is what Yahusha was saying. Okay, you gotta look at the fig leaves. You gotta look at these things. We see all that. So what do we? So if you have the advantage, here's the thing: they've had a 400-year comparative advantage or competitive advantage. All right. So what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make sure my competition stays confused. Oh, y'all are just starting to wake up, but I'm gonna put a monkey wrench in there. You know, for me having kids, it was, my kids were younger, they'd have Legos on the floor. So especially if you wake on up and you step on a toy, that always hurts. Ooh, because then you do what? You're not thinking about anything else. I'm just thinking that the toy hurts. I didn't realize I was getting up, and if I'm getting up, I have a purpose in mind. So I'm gonna have another distraction from my purpose. But see, they did that too early, in my opinion, for whoever that was, whatever powers that be. Because here's the thing: no matter how much the enemy tries to distract you, the Most High already has the agenda laid out. You know, um, distractions included. That's already been in the plan. So in terms of how we see all these things lining up, I used to look at QN, and then I realized it's whatever. It's whatever. The real intent is, okay, just if they just want to keep us distracted, good luck. Good luck. Because here's the thing: this virus ain't the only thing that's happening. This virus isn't the only thing that's coming down the pipe. And this is just one judgment that God has done. And look at all these effects that's going on. You know? So I pray for all of my brothers and sisters. I pray for them all. I pray for the Gentiles that are what? That are understanding this truth. I pray for the stranger that are knowing this. I pray for us specifically, because guess what? Persecution is going to be coming. You know, when we understand this, this thing wasn't just going to be, okay, it's daisies. Oh, great. You know who you are. No. Because when you understand the rest of the world, especially for me traveling, and I had the story. I was in Jordan. This was back in 2017. I was in Jordan. And I was researching, like whatever Teo was coming out with, whatever Dante was coming out with. I was taking it. I was researching. I was cross-referencing. I was doing this and doing all that. And it was funny because this is actually the only negative experience I had. It was funny because when I was there, I was talking to a Jordanian officer. I said, "Look, I already know we're the people." He said, "How do you know that?" I said, "Because we did this. I said, "I know that. I know this." I said, "Look at all this other stuff." I was like, "I tell you that this and this and this." I said, "I can even tell you that Jerusalem there isn't Jerusalem." And I told him, I said, and I firmly believe that that's actually Samaria. I said, I firmly believe that that's actually Samaria. And when I told him that, he looked at me. He's like, "Okay, well, I think that your time here in Jordan has ended. It's probably best for you to go home." Well, why? Because you know too much. This is just talking about knowing who we are and knowing that we're a people. You know too much. Uh-oh.
Yep.
If you know too much, then guess what? Other people will start to know.
Yep, that's a problem. I believe that's why it's multiple things attacking us all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not the Q, how do you pronounce it again? Because this is my first time ever coming in contact with it. What is it?
QAnon.
QAnon. I'm gonna look that up tonight. We have that, then we have other groups that are attacking us. It's like coming from every direction. So yeah, everybody's trying to stop this awakening, and as they try to stop, the numbers increase in our community.
Yeah, because you gotta remember, everything that the enemy tries to do, they're not understanding God is already using that. Because here's the thing. Okay. Look, if you done lied on the people for so many times, oh, here's another one coming out. Here's another one coming out. Oh, okay, well, something's different. Something's different. Wait a second. We can't stop these folks from what? Asking for reparations. Something's happening. We can't stop these folks from what? Going up to candidates when we were able to before quote unquote social distancing and say, hey, what are you gonna do about reparations? Something's happening. Wait a second. I can't control the narrative anymore. Uh-oh. There's a big problem. So, the thing is, you knew we were going to get attacked. This is going to be, here, there, everywhere. But the problem is, okay, if I get attacked, then tell me this. Tell me how I'm a liar. That's it. Look, I will stop. But you show me. You show me. Give me the evidence. We all want what? Show me the proof, right? Show me the proof. I can't take conjecture anymore. I can't take happenstance anymore. Because why? There's books that were written centuries ago that explained our profiles, right? Our profiles are what? Our skin types, our curly hair, right? Our noses. Everything that defines who we are as a Black person. Oh, you're saying Black. You're saying Black. Oh, that's racist. Wait a second. These are in these books. These are in these books before they wanted to change up who quote unquote Jews were. So all of a sudden, we're looking like vanilla sky, right? Things are changed up. Wait a second. We're coming out this coma. So
love that movie. You said Vanilla Sky. I love that movie. It does. It has a plot of awakening, and they're finally woke. And they say, "Do you want the life that we give you, or do you want the unknown life?" And he chose the unknown life, and he had to choose his biggest fear to enter into his to actually live a real life. So that's a very good analogy dealing with the Vanilla Sky movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, because here's the thing: Hollywood's not dumb. They just play the same pattern. Why? They're going to put that in front of your face and laugh at you at the same time. Ha ha ha! But if only they know they only have 17 more years left, or whenever that movie came on out. If only they knew. But they already know. Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to try and develop this technology. And then what's going on? People are now getting scared. Oh man, mark of the beast. Oh my gosh, we're going to do this. Okay. Has anybody looked outside lately? I got my little garden started because you want to know why? Has anybody looked outside lately? Okay. How many folks are now unemployed? 30 million. How many folks are going to be unemployed, quote unquote, by the numbers next week? It's going to be more than 30 million. Are there going to be any jobs coming back? They just said that they had to shed 75 million tourism jobs worldwide. You know what that means? Florida ain't coming back. That's what that means. Florida is now a war zone. We just don't want to declare it yet. Because guess what? I'm going to tell you what. When people start losing their resources, then what are you going to do? I'm going to revert back to who I am. If I know I'm Edom, then guess what? I'm a warrior. I'm going to revert back. What am I going to do? I'm going to start hunting. Who am I going to hunt first? Well, who's closest to me?
Yeah. Israel.
Yeah.
But that's the mentality. What are we looking like? Shoot, nothing's gonna happen. I'm just sitting here chilling in my apartment. Oh, ain't nothing.
You notice how China tried to change the narrative on the Wuhan virus? It's like, well, what did we have to do with that? It's like, let's put the blame on them, right? Refocus.
Well, it's a refocusing tactic because you got to remember, China isn't original. They're not original. They're not original. Let me explain this to you. China is not original because here everything in China has to get their stuff through ill-gotten gains. That's it. Even when we have text and apocryphic texts that show, hey, daughter Asia, you're just doing the same thing that you're seeing the rest of your quote unquote family doing. You're doing the same thing. Okay, but you want to know what? We're going to do it with more skill. I'm going to steal intellectual property. Shoot, I'm gonna be more cunning. I'm gonna be more conniving. Oh, Wuhan virus? Nah. Wuhan, woo you? No. Wuhan, no, woo you. No. We understood that. But see, we had to understand there are folks across the world, across this water, that's starting to get this. Black folks are starting to get this.
Yeah.
We just
What's
have to,
amazing, the European Gentiles, especially in America, they don't know what it's like to be without and not to be privileged. And now you have 30 million unemployed people. The system may not come back online. They're talking about forced vaccinations. I'm like, we know how they're going to respond. It's going to be civil war, number 2. So,
well, well, because you can't see the thing is, what was always the sell? And this is what I always used to tell people, and I try to lecture people. The sell was, if I need to have a people in captivity, right? I have to make that captivity look like what? A theme park.
Yeah. And that's so interesting. You're going back to the mindset, the movie that I'm talking to everybody about. And I know we got to wrap up, but it's the Vanilla Sky movie. The dream was very beautiful, but it started having glitches in it. And every glitch caused a problem with this man's life. And he kept meeting people to tell him to wake up. And he didn't know who it was. And then towards the end, he figures out the people who own the company was telling him, if you need any issue, if you have issues, we're support. And they gave him the option of we can fix this dream world for you, and you can go back to your beautiful life, or you can actually go into your real life and see what it's like. So it's interesting that you brought that up, and that is like, yeah.
Well, because we're now starting to understand. Okay, oh, this is actually life. Oh man, okay, what do I know? Well, I know the Bible. But then what do you hear? The Bible's a white man's book. The Bible's a white man's book. Okay, then where did the white man get it from? Because all they knew was what? The Iliad, right? They knew of Zeus and Homer and all that stuff. But they didn't understand. Look, that Bible is something that's historical. See, when you have people that you think that are in mind, because why? Because why? It's just programming. I got programmed to think that these are the people. Why? Because if they own the program, they're going to put in whatever they're going to tell you.
Yeah,
right?
They were programmed.
I'm on a program in the code. You now have had code programmed into you since birth. Wait a second. Dang, I just did Ruach HaKodesh Holy Ghost quick scan, and I found I was contaminated with 15,000 viruses. What was those viruses? This. Okay, time to hit delete. Oh, some of those prompts, some of those errors are coming on up. Oh yeah, it's gonna have to have a deep scrub. I mean, a deep scrub. Yep. But the thing is, it's kind of funny because being a systems engineer, I actually didn't really want to do it. My wife had said, "Hey, why don't you look at doing some computer stuff?" Because I've always been like analytical with numbers, like accounting. That's me. Give me a spreadsheet. Give me anything that goes down, and I can do some forensic accounting. And that's what I love to do. Look, how am I losing this money? What am I paying for? What let me see, what kid done used Apple Pay, or paid something on, and you see all these like accounting things. But you have to understand, we're now starting to reconcile the books. That's what we're doing right now. Every time that we're talking about this, every time that we have people online saying something about this, the books are being reconciled. Well, it's a white man's book. Okay, so then this white man, how How long was he in Africa? How long was he in Africa? Because why is there over 2,200 references of places in the African plate, and there's only less than 70 European references? See, when we start to try to analyze, our system fundamentally taught us to not analyze. I get in these comment sections, and I like, here's the thing. I like to blow people up on the comment sections. I'll blow them on up. Like, oh, you're gonna talk some ignorance. I'm gonna blow you out the water. Because here's the thing. What do Black people like to do? We like to clown on each other. That's inherent. Oh, dang. We came out with some weak stuff. Okay. Well, your man just what? He just toasted you. You get the trolls on in here, and they come up with some weak stuff, and then you tell them, well, what about this? And then they get toasted. Yeah. And then what happens when they get toasted? You're racist. Yeah, no, I'm telling the truth. So explain to me something that has a historical context to it, instead of just saying, well, this is that. Well, here's the thing. That used to hold weight. You know how that used to hold weight with us? Because, well, this is that, and then crack. You want to know? That was the crack from the whip, as our shirts were ripped in two and our backs were exposed. That's the crack. Oh, you don't have to tell me twice. I already know that. No, I got to tell you about 15 more times so you really know it. Yeah. Okay, boss man done said, this is it. Boss man, mm-hmm. You're looking like the dude from Life. You look like the dude from Life. Don't cross the tree line. You better not cross the tree line.
Yep, you are hilarious. Well, I think everybody enjoyed it so far. I was listening and watching the chat, because you remember last time when we were doing this, Kira said we had a lot of trolls, so I was just kind of watching the chat. So far so good, but I know it's time to close. Any closing remarks, Kira, from your side, and then next will be Tayu.
I'd like to say thank you for bringing me on, and giving me, the time and space to.
And this isn't your last time. Like I said, I'm just rebuilding a lot of things when it comes to my panel and stuff. So you're more than welcome to come back. I may have a panel discussion where it's a group of us and we're kind of talk about some of the subjects that we just brought up here high level when it deals with the with the awakening. So this isn't your last time. Definitely not your last time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure, being able to kind of discuss some things, because I mean, we all have a unique perspective in terms of our awakening experience, and this awakening experience, it's, if God, the Most High, Kembo, the zombie, however you want to say it. Here's the thing: we don't have the full, complete version. We don't have it, because here's the thing. I always liken it to this: we are still in our captivity. What did the Most High say to Israel? He said, "Look, I'm the God of your forefathers, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel." Well, who did they just know? Well, we serve the God of who? Of Abraham.
Yeah, you're right.
We serve the God of Abraham. So how do we know? We don't even know the name yet. Because why? We're coming right back out of captivity, and then God's going to do what? The Most High is going to do what? Yahuwah's going to do what? He's going to reveal his name. Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't want you to have your name revealed in captivity, because guess who's going to be listening to you? Guess who's going to be listening to you? Other folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other folks. Hey, oh, well, you know what? I need a life raft. Hey, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, who is this and this and this. Hear my pleas, because why? It's no longer muffled. Yep. It's like, It's like it's the God of him right there.
Yep.
What was your God? The God of him right there.
Yep.
Who's him? Him right there. Hey, him right there. I need you to hook me on up because now that I know what your name is that you want to refer to, hallelujah. Him right there is going to do it. No, you said no. It doesn't work that way. Because why? Because then the people that I want to have set up for judgment, guess what they're going to do? They're going to try and escape their judgment. Oh, oh, hey, do you understand? This is what they're doing right now. This is what they're doing right now. These 90 some people that's watching, probably more than that, you're going to have some people from TBN, CBN, Daystar, all these folks. Okay, what are these black folks talking about? Because I know when I went to seminary, when I went to here, when I went to Israel and I did my Middle Eastern trip, and the Jews kind of dropped some knowledge, and okay, well, what are they saying? Because if I know what they're saying, then guess what? I can do what? I have a parachute. I have a parachute.
Yep, you're good. I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to close up. We cooking in my house right now, and I've got called into the kitchen 3 times. We'll definitely have you back on, Curious. Anything from you, Tayu, before we close up?
Sure. Yeah, we appreciate you, Brother Karis, for coming on. I wanted to answer the QAnon question as well. I mean, my understanding of QAnon is that there's like some 12 generals or something like that that have been fighting the New World Order system, and that they're working with Trump, and they're going to reveal something along those lines. I mean, I don't believe the QAnon story. I mean, I've heard it for a long time in various forms. Um, this secret group that's fighting for justice or whatever. But I don't think they have. I don't think they're a distraction at all. I think you can't stop the awakening. It's going global. Our people are getting educated, and out of that education, they're starting to see how they've been manipulated in other countries. So they can't stop the awakening. So I don't think it's really a distraction. Um, Also, yeah, I was looking at not to drag it on, but I was just gonna interesting find. My brother mentioned it once, but in Zombie and Yami, right? There's the Ghanaian god Yami, right? The N is silent, and I suspect the N is silent in Zombie, even though they say in Zombie a lot. But I think the N is silent. But Yami, right, is very close to what we know as Yahweh, right, or Yah, and he's an omnipotent God, all knowing, right? He's the creator of all. That's in these Bantu cultures. So very interesting. But uh appreciate the conversation tonight.
Yep. All right, family. This will not be the last time that we bring our brother Curious on. I will be doing something consistently. It'll probably be like next week or week after next. We'll do another segment and we'll talk about some of the things we brought up about the QAnon and a couple of other things that deal with the awakening, because these are interesting subjects I want to kind of bring to the family. So I want to say thank you to Kiris first for the time and energy that you've put in. And I look forward to working with you more. Tell you, my brother, I always love you on the panel. My panel is always open to both. So and my YouTube audience, thank you so much for your time. I will see you all again. Hopefully I might do something later on this week. I might do something tonight. I don't know. I was thinking about doing something late tonight, but I keep everybody posted to talk about the killer hornets that's coming in. But I want to thank everybody and good night.